So at the end of the last video, I still needed to print the wheels and the shocks, which I have done. I also took a shot at modeling a rear axle housing, so I did the easier one first, and I think I've been successful. Everything fits just like it would on a normal axle, and this is probably as far as I'm going to go. So once I get these on the build, I'm going to put everything together and we're going to run it. I'm not even going to attempt a front axle yet. I probably will in the future, but at this point I've done pretty much everything with the exception of the electronics and the front axle, and I think that's good enough. We've saved a ton on the overall build cost, so that's good enough for now, at least to put it together and start running it. So so a little bit about these housings. Everything fits perfectly. I have no idea if they will work actually when they're put together and running. It took me quite a few tries to get this right, at least as far as fitment goes. There's a few different things I had to end up doing, like minor modifications. So these have wider mounting points where the shocks will attach and the suspension links attach. I ended up cutting out these like divots in the housing so the head of the bolts so I can drill those in all the way without it rubbing on the housing, or I could drill them in the other way and they won't hit the diff cover. So I printed a few different versions of these. So this one is a plus 8 millimeter width on either side, so technically 16 millimeters, and I just labeled it with a plus 8. And then I have a plus 4 millimeter version. I actually don't have anything to fit either one of these, so I'll be putting two of these stock ones on there. These are the same exact width as a stock rear axle. So I think that's good enough. I'm going to get these on it and let's put it together and see if we can actually get it to run. The only issue that I think I'll run into is drive shafts. I don't know if I have drive shafts because I need 3 of them. So not much else we need to do. Let's just get everything on and then I'll figure out what else I need to put in there. Oh, and it's not really more economical, it's not really cheaper to actually print your own housing and put everything in it, because you still need the bearings, you still need the shafts, the gears, so it ends up like being the same amount. I paid like $71 for all 3 axles, just these stock axles, and they come already put together. It's a few cents to print a housing, but you still have to buy all of the other stuff, so it turns out about the same, unless you were to buy like a lot. You'd have to buy like 100 bearings or something like that, and a bunch of axle shafts, and then just like build rigs in bulk in order for it to be cheaper versus like a stock one from Axial. If you're comparing the cost to build one of these to like a Super 8 or the X15 or any one of those higher end axles, yes, it is cheaper to go this route. But if you were just gonna buy a stock axle anyway, pretty much the same thing, but less work to buy one already put together. Okay, so I'm just gonna disassemble this and see if we can transfer everything to one of our 3D printed housings. Okay, so this is the housing I'm going to be using. Let's get these ones out of the way. So I just switched out a couple of the bearings in the first gear. Fits really well. So far so good. Gotta get a bearing. I don't know if you can see that, but I just put the bearing back there and it fits really well. I almost forgot it's a special axle, so it needs a diff cover with a hole in it. So I ran into an issue with the middle axle. When I put the gear in there, it actually went in at an angle. Somewhere along the lines, the holes in the model, I misaligned them or something. So I have to go back and redo the internals on the top where the gear slots through. So for now, I'm going to use a regular axle. Hopefully I can get it going pretty soon, but I've already printed like 20 of these housings, just kind of making modifications here and there, so I'm anxious to get this on the course. So tires and shocks are on. I gotta rethink this. I need to print longer suspension links in the back because they have a chance of touching each other. So I gotta put some longer suspension links on the back. Okay, check it out. So tires are on, shocks are on, motor, ESC, receiver is in. I just stuck the on-off switch here to the side with some double-sided sticky tape. So the only thing left I have right now to get this running are drive shafts, so I gotta figure that out. Okay, so 2 out of 3. So I had to use a front shaft from one set, and I don't even know where I got this one from. I don't know what it's to, but it fits perfectly. The axles can fully articulate, so I only got the front left to do. So I think I'm gonna go with this one. Is that a front or a rear? I think this is the JLU rear. I actually don't know without measuring them. Oh, check it out. So I got 3 drive shafts to work, and it's funny because they're all 3 from different sets. I had to switch out these suspension links a few different times to get them to where my tires, for one, didn't rub, but I still actually have to switch these rear ones out to a little bit longer, because if this like flexes this way, it touches the center tire. So I just want to get this up and running just to see if it rolls, mainly for this axle, to see if that works. So let's get a battery in this and see if it even moves. Okay, moment of truth. Gotta reverse that. Let's reverse that. I'm just going slow because that rear axle is 3D printed, so. Okay, can go forward. I'm just watching for anything that's binding up back here. What? Okay. So, let me just get a better... Now, this is actually the first time I've ever used an Injora Purple Viper brushless system. Actually, the first time I've used any Injora motor. So, I don't even know what to expect from that. Oh, okay. Look, you see how the axle is kind of turning? It looks like that's a sign of binding there. That it even spins, I'm amazed. Increase the speed. Some movement there, yeah, you see that? It's kind of rocking side to side. I actually haven't put grease in these axles either. Let me strap this battery down and we're gonna go see how this thing works. That is pretty cool. Looks like it might work out. I mean, it's rolling. So I'm just kind of looking at the drive shafts. I'm mainly concerned with that rear axle because that's the 3D printed one. But look at that. I mean, there's hardly any movement from the axle, so I mean, currently it's not really binding. All right, I got to get this on the course. Let's go check it out. So I'm probably going to be pretty gentle with this at first, just so I can see what's happening here. Also testing out that Injora Purple Viper and the MBL 32, because I've never used their stuff before, so... That is cool. Okay, let's try reverse. Oh, yep, I see a problem right here. It's about to happen. You see how close those back tires are? Yeah, I need to put some longer suspension links on there. Wow, at low speed, that thing is silent. Let's go a little bit faster. On to the course we go. Okay, let's just drive it up and around there. I assume at some point my rear tires are going to contact each other and cause an issue. Oh, close. Oh, yep. On the other side, they're rubbing a tiny bit already. So yeah, I just need to really get the longer suspension links on there. I cannot believe that's all 3D printed except for those two axles. Oh wow! That just climbed up there no problem. Okay, so this is at this scenario, that problem. I need some better lights over here. So right here, the rear axle needs to go down, the middle axle needs to come up, and that it's at that point that those tires come in contact with each other. So that is, it's causing it to like jitter. Yeah, because it needs to come up even further. They're just kind of like mashing into each other right there. I'll try to hold the camera steady. I'm just so interested in what's happening on the vehicle. So I chose not to go like 4 or 6 wheel steering on this. I know it would be more maneuverable, but I don't know, for some reason I just really wanted to do just front wheel steering. This is just going to be like, you know, just kind of a hauler or something that's not really meant to be all that maneuverable. Oh, what's going to happen here? Okay, so the back axle lifts off the ground. Now the middle one's off the ground. This Injora Purple Viper seems actually really badass. Get that flex. Let's just see those axles kind of moving over. Yeah, right there, they come in contact. Okay, that's what I should do. Let me get a longer set printing. That's crazy that it has so many 3D printed parts and it doesn't actually seem all that bad. I mean, it's super light. Yeah, let's get a bunch of snow caked in there. I mean, longer shocks would be cool. It could allow that axle to just kind of drop down, but I mean, interestingly, these 3D printed shocks and springs are not doing too bad. It was just kind of like just for fun. I mean, it still is like I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go switch out all my shocks with 3D printed stuff. But oh, what's gonna happen here? What? Probably can't go there. Yeah, that back I think is too. Yeah, that front axle is completely off the ground. Yep. Okay. So far, I'm super impressed with this thing. I mean, maybe it's just impressive because it actually like didn't just fall apart. Yeah, that back is really heavy. So this is, I mean, I don't have any weight on the front, any extra weight, so it's literally just plastic pieces. I'll be interested to see how it performs when we add weight to it, because that back, I mean, that's like, you know, trumps the front, the weight on the front by a lot. Definitely need some longer suspension links. All right, let me save you, little vehicle. Okay, let's just try to go back up, and then I'm gonna go print some longer links because that back end is just holding it back right now. I just gotta try this just for fun. Oh. Whoa. It just made it up there. That's badass. Reminds you of like a praying mantis right now. Oh! That Angora Purple Viper can like really slow crawl. And that is half the price of like a Micro Komodo and Lizard Pro. I mean, look, let's see how slow it can go. I can hold the camera steady, but look at that. I'm just trying to like get a feel for the Angora versus Furatech, because the only brushless systems I actually have ever had have been Furatech. I have a Micro Komodo, a Mini Komodo, a Cedar, a Unity. So I'm really used to Furatech stuff. And it's, I mean, it is really good. It's amazing. You know, they're electronic speed controllers. We have the Python Pro, the Lizard Pro. This is the first Angora I got. You know, compared to the Furatech cost-wise, you know, this is $60, $60, and you get, I'm just going backwards here, I don't know why. But for $60, I am definitely going to get some more of these. That is awesome. For a $60 system, I'll have to play with it a little bit more, but for 60 bucks versus like 100 or 150 for a Furatech system. So yeah, I don't really think for the price you could beat that. It almost seems like it has FOC. Okay, so I'm gonna cut it here and I'll go see about printing some longer links and see if we can finish off this build, at least as far as the chassis is concerned. So far, this is actually doing much better than I thought it was going to do. I still got to figure out a body, and then we'll be done. So I forgot to actually record, but I did put that middle axle on, and it seems to work okay. The drive shafts aren't binding up. There is some resistance, a little bit of resistance, so I'll have to look into that. But I'm going to take off this rear, these rear links and see if I can put some longer ones on. I had to switch out the drive shaft because the one I had in there was actually too short after I put longer suspension links in there. So hopefully those will keep my tires from rubbing. Okay, so noticeably more space in between those rear tires. Well, let's go try it out. Okay, so this is with the new axle housing. So both rear axles are now 3D printed, the housings are. It has longer suspension links in the back, so hopefully that pushes those tires apart enough to where they won't bind up on each other. So one thing that I noticed with this is it's so light because of all the 3D printed parts. It kind of jitters. And I think a large part of that is probably because of the 3D printed axle housings. So I am getting some binding in that center axle housing. I think I need to adjust that a little bit. So I ran into a problem with that center axle. It's binding, it's catching on those drive shafts a little bit, or actually a lot of it, I guess. And the reason for that is that the outer walls are too thick. I made everything a little bit thicker than I normally would have because it's filament. So you can kind of see it, that center axle on the other side will kind of lift up sometimes, and it kind of like lurches or like kind of stutters right there. And that's because it's catching on those drive shafts. It's kind of offering a little bit of resistance. That's something else I'll need to look into. So I'll probably just release this video as a progress update. We do have it together. We do have it running, just not running well. So I want to see if I can change that. So far, I would actually be happy with 3D printing the frame rails for sure. They seem to hold up no problem. What else? The skid plate, that's working just fine. The suspension links are working just fine. And having 3D printed suspension links, I can have any length I want. I can, fine tune that as long as I can get a drive shaft to fit it. The problem that I'm running into are these axle housings. I could, if I can't get them to work soon enough, I guess, I'll probably just switch to the normal axial axles and just kind of use those, because it does take a while just to get the models kind of edited and modified, because sometimes it kind of boils down to like a few millimeters or like a partial millimeter difference, and so it takes a while to kind of iterate through those. But you can see it kind of stuttering. It works better than I thought it would. I'm surprised it didn't fall apart when I first started it, so that's a win, I guess. So I think I'll probably end it here and get to work on those axle housings and see if I can get this thing to work a little bit better. And then we'll figure out what sort of body we're going to put on it. It works pretty well for being mostly 3D printed, for sure. I don't exactly know where I'll go from here. It's just a really interesting build. You know, it's been interesting to kind of just 3D print everything. So that's all I really have for now. Kind of got to see some run footage of this thing. It did a lot better than I was expecting, so I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm kind of excited to take this to the next level. I don't really know where that's going to be, so stay tuned, I guess.